Welcome to the Wunderkammer, the place where you will find all the needed objects in order to discover yourself. But be careful, this cabinet of curiosities will uncover things you never wanted to see unveiled. This room will open the abyss of darkness for you. You will see how this darkness will lead you to the light you were searching for all this time. Wunderkammer is excited to be your guide to that light.
The end of the Lustrous is the somatic, unspoken bridge between us and our emotions. The reason why it's such a masterpiece is because it connects us to what we, with our bodies and minds, always run away from. The story starts with the biggest failure in that existing world, Phosphophyllite. In a world where you need to have predispositions such as a strong body, crystals, which don't break easily in order to be of any use. This world perfectly reflects our world, where you absolutely mustn't be weak. In a world where you can't collapse or be different. In a world where weakness is not investigated enough and plainly signed as invalid and worthless. A world that is terrified of collapse and does everything in order not to feel emotion. Phosphophyllite represents what everyone absolutely hates, which is to be a child. Interestingly enough, even though these crystals are over 1,000 or 2,000 years old, they are all acting like scared children, and that side of them never changes with age. It's impossible to change it, no matter what you do. Just like the world of crystals, the same goes for our world. Emotion is the only thing that was left from us when we came here on this planet. Emotion was the only thing that was left from ourselves. It's the only connection which leads us to ourselves. If that wasn't the truth, we would have resolved this problem a really long time ago, even before last civilization self-destructed. This is a world made of 6 shooting stars, which fractured the world in 6 pieces, while creating 6 moons. Because of that, all life fled for the seas, and on the shores there was a life form that appeared, and with time, because of digestion of microorganisms and by systematic arrangement, they became gemstones. Those gemstones rose to the shores and became beings full of life which lacked the soul and the mind. Those beings are chased from the soul and the mind. The soul, mind, and body are always fighting each other, but they seem to never stop because all of them are too equal in order to die. In the show, nor the body, soul, or mind die because they all are a part of each other. Meet the terrifyingly beautiful Lunarians. The Lunarians are the representation of the lost soul, which, without its limits, becomes endlessly lustful and deprived for expansion, deprived to gain more and more. The reason why they catch the gems and carry them to the moon is because they never have enough that would fulfill the emptiness and limitlessness which causes a lost soul. Without limits, the lost soul, is not happy with itself because it doesn't recognize itself. It can't see itself as a consciousness without limits defining it. They live on the moon, the most beautiful place in the universe, but they're still unsatisfied. Phos lives in a separate reality, where he feels left out from the world because he can't gain the value which is needed in the world around him. He finds every way in order to gain that value, and it's impossible because that's what he's made of. He can be made of something more valuable. That value is having a strong and fast body since your birth, but he doesn't have a strong body. He's born fragile. You can't search for or gain a value that is inherent. Because of that unbearable powerlessness, he feels like there is nothing else to do but fight it, because that was the last thing he would survive and live for in his mind. Without that, he would have no other purpose to serve, and so he would die. What makes Phosphophyllite even more alone is the way of how everyone is feeling okay and happy with themselves, because they were born with stronger crystals, and so they can't see, feel, or touch or sense what Phosphophyllite is feeling. There is nothing worse than that feeling of insanity which arises from having a completely different structure. This perfectly represents how our world works, because the world is so unsafe and cruel. Who has even time for emotions? Even when no one tells this, the child always knows that it's perceived as a burden, just because it's fragile. It perceives that being fragile and vulnerable is invalid and weak, because that means that you need to depend on other people. This is exactly what Phosphophyllite saw, even though it's said in a light-hearted and cheerful way. That's what he felt. And so, the more he perceives this invalidation, the more he feels useless because he has to rely on other people. With this, he assigns his own meaning of life on being useless, and so he starts to think of himself as worthless. The recipe of disaster starts the moment when you combine the meaning of your worthiness to your usefulness, especially in the period of forming your identity. The problem isn't exactly in the combination of the meaning of worthiness and usefulness, but the problem is the period when that usually happens, and that is childhood, because that's the period when the identity barely starts to form. When you unconsciously assign your worthlessness as a reason behind your uselessness before you even form your identity, you won't manage to find a strong identity in the following stages of life. And this is what happens to Phosphophyllite. There is no one to guide him and tell him this, so he can go through that process consciously and be aware of what he's doing, not even the most enlightened authority that is humorously represented as a monk. Phos finds hope for his meaningless existence when he talks to Cinnabar. He sees and recognizes himself in Cinnabar and can't help but connect with him, knowing how Cinnabar feels about his existence where he does nothing more than harm to others around him. Phosphophyllite promises him that he will find his worthiness by assigning a job that fits his own happiness. After this encounter, Phosphophyllite can't stop thinking about that event and empathizes with Cinnabar's emotions of worthlessness, emptiness, and loneliness because of an incompatible world which values things that Cinnabar can't offer. Phosphophyllite realizes that he is the same as him, useless, worthless, and waits until the day when he is swept away by the Lunarians, where he will finally be of use because of the beauty of the crystal he is made of. Phosphophyllite is the center of all failure. Whenever he goes on to find an answer, danger always happens, and so everyone is at risk by needing to protect his fragility. But no one sees him as the burden more than he sees himself, and that's exactly what puts everyone at risk. No one is brave enough to tell him that, and because of that, he can't stop feeling like Cinnabar. He sees him as his twin, because he himself is harm. He sees himself as a failure with such a degree that he never asked himself what's right with him. He just accepted his role as a failure in that world, and so he never stood up for himself. What else can he do? He needed a way in order to prevent pain, and the only way he could do that is to start hurting himself. With hurting himself, he doesn't let others hurt him. While searching for an answer, he asks Daya about the way in which he can find the answer of helping Cinnabar. Here, it's obvious that he never even wanted to help Cinnabar more than he wanted to help himself. He promised Cinnabar that he's not going to let him commit suicide by finding him a role on this planet. He does this in order to give hope to himself so that he can find his own role too. He wants to help uselessness to be useful in order to prove to himself that he can be useful too. But what he doesn't notice is that no matter if you're made from a diamond or not, when you're feeling worthless, nothing even matters. Even a diamond confesses that it's worthless, but Phosphophyllite can't notice that because a diamond is shining too bright, and so it blinds you. Daya tries to help him by telling him to change in order to gain worth, because that's the only way he himself knew that exists in order to gain worthiness. The only things that were left in him were tears, sorrow, and need for recognition for who he truly was. Without a value to chase or usefulness to achieve, all he can think of is how to help his own self be worthy, which is shown by his constant remembering of the promise he made to Cinnabar. At the end, there is nothing he can do. He chases something that he can't see and ends up in the same place where he started, powerlessness. He can't do anything else except grieve.
誰か助けて
He gets swallowed by a snail, and everyone reacts as if they all knew that a creature so fragile can't exist in a harsh world.
Did you like the visit in the Wunderkammer? If you did, please like, subscribe, and share this content if you see it as helpful. Did you also notice the artworks in this video? They're not put accidentally. If you want to understand my philosophical reasons of why I put them in the video, you can become a crow on Patreon. In that tier, I'm posting the paintings and the contacts they have in the video. You can also see them like Easter eggs. But only crows can see through the messages, because they are messengers themselves.
You can also become a raven. In that tier, you can ask me for answers and guidance about anything you're curious about, and you're going to receive a high quality answer.
I also have playlists on Spotify under my name, Katerina Lunas, if you need something to trigger and enhance your emotional experience. Can you hear the footsteps? They're the footsteps of illusion. It's coming. But what are you going to do about it? Accept it or do something about it?